All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great week here so far. Thanks so much for stopping by for this midweek live stream. So, like all these midweek ones, I'll be going for 1 hour. I'll give priority answering to anyone who has a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there. With the green usernames, they get that priority answering. If you'd like that, there's a link in the description. And I'll also say that we do have an active thunderstorm going on over here. So hopefully we don't have any power outages, knock on wood. But yeah, if everything randomly goes off, that's why. So anyway, but I see Wheatman, thanks so much for joining in and being a member for 41 months now. I really appreciate it. He says, happy hump day, Matt, and all the car enthusiasts. Crazy car spot. I saw driving a Fisker Ocean at the supermarket yesterday. Wow. I'm always curious. I want to know who is driving these and what the clientele is. Like, is it someone who's young and adventurous? Is it someone that's older that just figured they'd try it out or something? It's always very interesting to me who is actually driving these things. So I'd love any other details if you have them, but that's an insane spot. The spot I just saw here about an hour or two ago was a Mitsubishi Montero, which I haven't seen one of those in a while. I feel like it's got to have been at least a year or two. So that was kind of a fun spot. And Lancelot, thanks so much for a very generous super chat here tonight. I really appreciate it. He says, my spots this week were a gray Mark V Supra, a gray Challenger Hellcat, and a silver early 90s Explorer Sport. Nice. That's kind of rare to see, at least around here. I don't see those too often. So that's awesome. And thanks so much for the generosity, Lancelot. I really appreciate it. And also want to welcome the others here who've joined in. So we've got Still a Buster, Theodore, and Lancelot, Danny, Vishal, B. Mitchell, and COVID-19 vaccine salesperson, Brian, Hugo, Jazzbo, Vishal, and Luke and Antonio. So thanks so much for joining in, everyone. So also Still Buster says, hey, all car spots are a blue Myers Manx. I wonder if you're in California, I wonder if that was Matt Farah, because he's got a blue one he just got, right? We also saw a red early 2000s Mercury Cougar. That's also cool. And a green Morgan +4. Hope you and the family are doing good. We are. Thanks so much. Hope you're doing well, too. And Theodore says, happy Wednesday to you and yours. I hope you and your family are having a fabulous day. Thanks. I hope you're having a great one, too, Theodore. And let me see. Danny says, have not driven yet this week. Only rare spot so far was a GMC Envoy XUV. Those are cool. I never see those anymore. So that's another sweet spot. I remember when those were brand new, and I remember like someone showing off the retracting roof thing in a parking lot and being like, wow, that is so wild. And it never caught on. I don't know why, because I think that actually still to this day is actually a really good idea of combining kind of a truck and an SUV at the same time. I guess you don't really need that much stacking ability usually, so maybe it was just kind of a fun party trick. But I mean, it's another one of those things where I think GM had a really cool idea, and who knows, maybe it'll be something that will still be popular in the future, because GM often gets the timing wrong on their futuristic stuff sometimes. And Vishal says, good evening all. My spots were an SL55 AMG, new manual Supra, and a final gen Saab 9.5. That's awesome. Those old 9.5s are pretty rare too. Those, like the last few, because they sold so few of them. And yeah, great spots. And Danny also said he saw a 99 Outback Sport. Nice. Those are near and dear to my heart. That was my first car, was the 97 Subaru Impreza Outback Sport. And B. Mitchell said, I was at my local Corvair club meeting last night with about 10 cars that showed up. So call that my spot for the week. It's always fun. He says everything from a 1960 sedan owned by the VP to a 68 hardtop coupe. Very cool. That's awesome. And Luke says, I missed Sunday night. I had to get up for work at 1 a.m. on Monday. Man, that's got to mess with your sleep schedule. Hope you're doing all right, Luke. And yeah, thanks for joining us here tonight. And Brian saw a classic Chevy Impala. That's awesome. And Hugo's asking how I've been. I've been doing well, just hanging in there in these crazy times we're living in, taking it day by day, but doing well. Channel's actually been doing a little bit better here recently. The views have been a lot better on the past handful of videos here. Hope I can keep that momentum going. We'll see. Yeah, the POV stuff has been fun to do, and people seem to be enjoying those, and they're getting decent views, and I am finally going to be starting my junkyard channel here in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned for that. I just finally today nailed down a name and locked down all the accounts for that name and everything. So I'm actually making real progress on a second channel just for walking through junkyards and showing the cool stuff that I find. And the first video of that should be coming right at the very end of this month. It's not going to be something I have a ton of time to devote to, but I'm hoping to post at least once every 2 weeks or so. I may split up longer videos into shorter little things too, to have as shorts, to have other content, to bridge the gap between every once every 2 weeks long form video. But that's kind of my plan for that, for now. But I am finally going to be doing that. I promise. I know many of you have been excited about that for a while. And I hope you're doing well too, Hugo. And Jazz, thanks for stopping by. Vishal says, Matt, my neighbor up the street still has a Fisker Ocean. Just so fascinating what led him to get one. Haven't had the chance to talk to him. Manny, I hope you get to talk to him someday, because I'm also curious how he ended up getting it, because that's interesting. They're probably either very upset about it, or they're driving basically a free car. It's either one extreme or the other, probably. So it's interesting. And Luke says it'd be awesome if Mitsubishi brought back the Montero and used the Nissan Frontier 3.8 liter V6. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways they could do it, but there's also other stuff in other markets where Mitsubishi has rugged stuff like that still. I won't go into that whole rant. You guys have heard it, 10 times over, but they could have something here if they wanted to. They just don't want to, and I don't know why that is. And Antonio says, hey Matt, how's it going? Hope everything's good. Currently in the In-N-Out drive-through. Want a double. Yes, I would want a double. I love, man, it's been far too long since I've had In-N-Out. I think the last time I've had it was probably about maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I think the last time was when I was in Vegas for SEMA. But yeah, man, I love In-N-Out. So enjoy it. Have one for me. And thanks for stopping by. And let me see. Fastline says, hey, Matt, another random question. Have you almost been in a car crash? Have had, plenty of close calls, and have been in, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess just 4 car accidents. So knock on wood, not too bad over 35 years of being in cars. And none of them were ever my fault. So 2 were when I was a kid. The one was the Mustang that sideswiped me back in 2016, and then the tree that fell out of the sky in 2017. So that's it's all my crazy crashing instances there, but it's never fun, that's for sure. And Antonio says a buddy of mine is currently looking at 2019 300S 5.7 liter V8. What are the cars he should be cross shopping? Any recommendations? I mean, obviously the Chargers, if he doesn't want something quite as classy as the 300. Other than that, it really comes down to what they want. If they just want a comfy cruiser, it's probably hard to beat that, especially if you want a cruiser with a V8. Other suggestions, you could go for, if you're willing to go a few years older, you can go for a Chevy SS sedan. They're fantastic. I guess you could probably, I don't know what CTSVs are going for used these days, but you could probably get, something around a 2016, 2017 CTSV maybe, although probably not as cheap as a 2019 300. So, I mean, it really is a car that's kind of in a class of its own. There really is never a whole lot of competition to that car. And I did a review on the V6 version and one on the final, 392 version, and both are fantastic. I've always liked the 300. I always thought it was very underrated and underinvested in by, Fiat Chrysler at the time. And I think they're great. Again, as long as you're just wanting a cruiser with a V8, it shouldn't disappoint. If you're wanting good handling, obviously, again, Chevy SS, Cadillac CTS, things like that will be better. And if he's flexible and not having a V8, I mean, there's lots of other stuff. I mean, even like you can get a CTS V Sport. That should probably definitely be the same kind of price point. And those have a really punchy twin turbo V6. Feels great. I mean, such good handling still in those. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're open to stuff that's not 4 doors, there's all kinds of other options as well, obviously. But yeah, I think it's obviously a really great car. I've enjoyed them a lot over the years, and probably a pretty good value. I haven't looked recently at what they're going for that kind in particular, but probably a pretty solid, steal for a car that should have a pretty reliable V8, no surprises there or anything. I think that's pretty good buy, as long as you get one that's been maintained well, of course. And let me see. And best of luck to your buddy trying to figure out, which way he wants to go there. And Stress Edge says, "Happy Hump Day, Matt. How many people do you think will switch their Slate truck pre-orders for the new Ford EV truck?" I don't know. I mean, I guess it comes down to how Ford does it, because I still think that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I think that a lot of the Slate appeal isn't the fact that it's just cheap, but that it is truly a blank slate. I think that has a lot of appeal, and people who, again, just want a simple truck. Obviously, the price is one of the big benefits of having a simple truck, but I think it's also just people who are burned out on huge screens, people that are burned out on overly complicated vehicles, who just want something small, cool. And that's the other thing too, so the Slate's only a 2-door versus, I'm almost certain, I don't, did they say whether the Ford one's a 4-door or not? I don't know, but I'm assuming it's going to be electric Maverick pretty much. Probably, a little more different than just something like that, but the same kind of size, probably same, kind of space inside and everything. So, I think there's other things there. Now, obviously, there will be some people that probably switch and are more comfortable with a legacy manufacturer that has, over a century of experience building cars and has, a very vast support network and all that. That's going to be, certainly a draw, but it also comes down to how Ford markets it, because, right now all we have is a silhouette and very few details to go off of. So, Slate already, people already have these pre-orders in. I guess we'll see how quickly Slate actually gets stuff out the door. I think that's also 2027, right? So if Ford, manages to put out all the solid info, puts out a price tag, puts out all the specs, and does all of that before anyone starts taking, delivery of their Slate, then, there's a better chance that they do cannibalize some of that. But I still think they're going to kind of appeal to slightly different people. I could be wrong. We'll see. I'm more curious to see, what other forms that takes. It sounds like Ford has been careful to say, other, utility kinds of vehicles. So it's going to be mostly other SUVs. So I'm guessing no cars still, maybe, they're still convinced here in the States that people don't want sedans for whatever reason, or hatchbacks. But, I think that Slate, I'm hoping they'll still be okay. I think they will still be okay. And, they will have some unique appeal that will keep them, still a strong seller, even if they do now have a competitor potentially. That's a great question, though. And Hugo says, "Hey, Matt, what made you want to buy the Cadillac Lyriq since they are known for being unreliable?" No hate, just honest question. What made you buy it? So I don't think they've really been that unreliable that I've seen. Now, the one that I had as a press vehicle did have a glitch that cleared itself after 3 key cycles. And I have been keeping, an eye on the software updates. There's been a lot of software updates. I was kind of getting some feedback from the community, on the Lyriq subreddit, and just, trying to pick up random other things online. And it sounds like, a lot of the problems for Lyriq are behind it. And, I always feel comfortable in, one, not doing a first model year of any of these things. So it gives them some time to work out the bugs. Like any vehicle, it's really a good idea generally to wait for a second model year for a lot of stuff. Obviously, some things that are pretty safe bets, you're not going to have to worry too much. But especially with these, more experimental things, that's why Mach-E was a 2022. 2021 was the first model year, and thankfully the timing worked out so that we were able to get a second model year there for that. And same thing, Lyriq. Lyriq's been out since 2023 model year. So this is now the 3rd model year of them. They've made a lot of refinements, worked out all the bugs. And so I felt confident knowing that not only that, but also it's the best-selling luxury EV. If you don't count Tesla's luxury, which I certainly don't, it's the best-selling, vehicle in that segment. So that also gives me confidence that, there's a lot of people out there with them. And, if lyrics were unreliable, then you'd be seeing them on the side of the road left and right. And, it'd be this big debacle. It's not. Modern cars generally are really reliable just overall. And, yeah, I haven't seen anything crazy about lyric recently. Obviously anything's possible. We'll see. But I think again, enough time has passed here that's kind of what made me feel comfortable about it. Now, if it turns out to be a complete piece of crap, I will document it heavily and I'll, never go back, but so far we're absolutely loving it. There's a few fit and finish things that aren't perfect. I'll probably cover that here in another little update video at some point down the road once I have a little bit more and it's not just like a 2-minute video of like the 3 things that I can talk about for 30 seconds. But aside from those minor little fit and finish things, it's really so nice. And I mean, I'm still just so blown away by that car and how nice it is. And just seeing it in the garage and just seeing Beth driving around in it, I mean, it looks so good. So styling was another big convincer. And we also talked more about why we arrived at the lyric in the reveal video. So a lot of the discussion is there. Beth is in that video as well, talking about, why she likes it and all that. And so you can check out that video for all of the other explanation if you haven't seen that already. And Blacked Out 5.0 fan says, hi, Matt, have you heard of Hot Wheels Highway 35 or the Acceleracers? I don't think I have. If the Acceleracers thing, if that's the like larger cars that like accelerate on their own, we do have 2 of those actually, because my daughter thought that was really cool. So we do race our, I don't know what they're called, but we do have those. But if you're referring to something else, then I probably don't know about it. And Luke says, I saw a Super Baja with a manual in yellow today in Michigan. That's awesome. I always loved when they were in yellow. It was the coolest launch color for those, and I think it looks really cool in yellow. And Antonio's excited about the Junkyard channel. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope it goes well. It seems like YouTube's pushing new channels really strongly these days as well, so I'm kind of hoping to cash in on some of that as well. Obviously, I know a lot of you will automatically, come over to the new channel who are excited about, supporting me or the Junkyard stuff or, both. But, I'm hoping to kind of hit the ground running with YouTube really putting their finger on the scale here recently for new channels. So we'll see. I'm hoping it gets decent views because, I can't monetize it until it gets, I can't remember what the amount of watch hours is, but it's, a lot of views before you can actually monetize still. So I'm hoping I can get that at least monetized relatively quickly. So we'll see just how much content I can put out to get it there. But I'm excited for it. And Vishal says, looks like Genesis G70 might be the next sedan to get killed off. Saw rumors that 2027 could be the final model year for it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I expected it to go away whenever Stinger went away because they're on the same platform. I believe the G70 is the last thing to use the 3.3T that I know of. So it's kind of like, an engine that's probably on its way out too. They'd probably like to, quit making that for just one low volume car, and free up that production for something else too. And just that factory. I don't know what else is at that factory now since Stinger left, but I'm sure again, it makes sense if it's not a good seller. I mean, unfortunately, it seems like Genesis is going to be going the same way as Acura here pretty soon. I guess Acura still has Integra, but going towards basically an all SUV lineup. I mean, we saw Lincoln do it, and it's just the way things are going here with a lot of these brands. So, I mean, G80, they just killed off G80 Electric. And I'm honestly surprised even regular G80 is sticking around because I think that sells even less than G70. I could be wrong. They're all such good cars too. That's the thing that's really crappy about it. I mean, G70's had a nice long life, so I'm not quite as upset about that one. But G80, this new generation was so good, and especially the sport versions were really dynamic, so underrated, and it's just a shame that it didn't do better for them. But let me see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it even gets killed off for the 2026 model year. Whoa, Sean, thank you so much for the $250 super chat. I think you take the crown for the highest one ever. I'm sorry, I'm like speechless. Thank you so much the crazy generosity. Whoa. Whew. Sorry, like that's crazy. So he says, "Hey Matt, I watched your video where you got the new Lyric, and I worked with Mac from Cochrane Cadillac and got that optic lease for $177 a month you mentioned in your video. I live 15 minutes west of Pittsburgh, and I couldn't be happier with it. Just wanted to say thanks for the videos. That's so awesome, and I'm so happy that Cochrane took care of you, and you're able to get that awesome deal. And I mean, that's a hell of a deal. $177 a month." For, I mean, probably what, a 50 grand sticker at least on that optic, depending on what trim you got and stuff. These are the awesome deals. I'm so happy you got one. I'm glad that a bunch of us have been able to get these great deals, get some really sweet cars for basically nothing, and capitalize on these deals while they're out there. So that's so awesome. I hope you enjoy the optic, and thank you so much for the generosity. Definitely not needed, but I thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you, and that's I really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm gonna get a drink here because that just blew me away. And I see Strata says, "Let's all take a shot for Sean." I agree. Cheers to Sean, and thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And if you ever see a green Lyric out running around, definitely wave, say hi. I'd love to shake your hand and say thanks in person someday for the very generous super chat. So thanks so much again. And all right, so let me see here. Moving on. So where were we here? Also, YH, thank you so much for a super chat. I really appreciate that. He says, "Got the ECU tune and the Roush Coulter intake and long tube headers. I'm now pushing 540 brake horsepower. I wish a Hellcat would." And is that water? Get some Coke Zero, cuz yeah, I don't really do Coke Zero too much. It just, to me, it tastes a little off, and just not in love with it. If I'm going to go for Coke, I just go for regular old Coke, or vanilla Coke is my absolute favorite if I can find it, but that's kind of hard to find these days. But congrats on the tune. I hope it gets all the fun out of it that you've been hoping for, and just make sure you stay safe and enjoy it in good health. But that's awesome. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. And let me see here. Danny says, "I was going around my town, and as I passed by my house, I saw a white 1998 Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4. Looked to have been using it as a daily driver." Wow, that's impressive, especially a VR4, because those are big money these days. I can't remember what the last one went for, but I mean, when they pop up on Bring a Trailer and stuff, I mean, it's like, I can't remember. I think the last one, I'm not even going to try and guess. I think it was at least 40 or 50 grand, but I could be wrong. But man, that's awesome. And great spot. And then Sil Buster says, "I live near Hershey, PA area, but I saw Matt Farah post his Manx on Instagram. Funny coincidence." Oh, that's cool. Well, I guess there's a few of them out there. I've never seen a Myers Manx, at least the newer ones, on the road. I think I've seen a few of the old ones at car shows, but that's about it. So that's awesome. It takes a lot of bravery to drive one of those on the street too. And Chad says, "Not car related, but seeing the factory explosion in Pennsylvania plant was crazy. I hope everyone there is okay." Yeah, it was crazy. That made national news, especially with the news these days being so wild. I'm honestly surprised that was newsworthy. I mean, it was terribly tragic, and a couple people lost their lives and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's only about 40 or so minutes away from me here. And I was kind of worried, like, we were going to have an air quality kind of situation where I wouldn't be able to go outside or something. Thankfully, it seems like it's fine. But yeah, I haven't really followed along too much as far as what caused it or what ended up happening there, but always sad when something like that happens here. And Antonio says, "Here in Southern California, I've seen a good amount of EV chargers. Don't know how I feel about them." That's cool. You're seeing a bunch of them. That's another car. Speaking of good lease deals, anyone who's open to that, I mean, the deals are nuts. I mean, they're as crazy as the optic. I mean, you can get, especially the RT version. Someone just screenshotted like the the dealer inventory for these, especially the RTs, because they discontinued the RT because like really nobody wanted those, it seems, unfortunately, even though I think they're great. I mean, there's dealers advertising $20,000 off, and that's before rebates. So that's before the tax credit. That's before any other, like, Stellantis incentives and stuff. Like, dealers just being like, $20,000 on the hood, get this thing off the lot. And that's why you're seeing leases of the RT versions. People have been getting them under $200 a month. And if you're really good at negotiating and hunting it down and traveling and not being picky on color and stuff, I mean, some of these people are getting them under $150 a month. And there was one or two people even got this Scat Pack. Literally, 670 horsepower. Someone leased one of those things for like $200 a month. I'm like, I don't care how much you hate an EV, 670 horsepower for $200 a month. Like, the insurance will be high. That's the only thing. And like I've said in the past, if insurance wasn't going to be high on it, or I had a little bit more money to spend, I would have been so kicking myself right now for going for the Fiat, considering I could have had a crazy Charger for almost the same money. I'm paying $130 a month for that. But it's the deals, and some have speculated the deals are going to get even better, possibly. I mean, there's only so much discounting they can do, so we'll see where the floor is on this stuff. But I mean, as some of these dealers get really desperate, as we get to the end of September, you may see, especially September incentives could be wild. Now, some people might sell out really fast and clear them out early, so deals already great right now, so I don't think it's worth waiting anymore. But it's going to be a real crazy time here for the next 6 weeks or so, as they liquidate as many of these EVs as they can. And because after that, again, there's no incentives, and I've actually kind of been tailoring my review schedule as well. I'm going to be requesting less EVs, and really only focusing on EVs where there isn't a value proposition to worry about, because that's immediately just going to get worse on any of these things once we get into October. And so it's like, I love EVs, obviously. We've got two of them. I think they're really, in most cases, just the better driving vehicle in a lot of ways. And obviously not for everyone, but regardless, I'm just going forward here in October and forward, I'm going to try and avoid EVs for the most part, though, unless we're talking about high-end stuff. Like, I might actually do an Escalade IQ or something like that for people who don't care about the deals. But it's just it's going to be a real uphill battle for EVs here once that's gone. I mean, there will still be pressure on manufacturers to price things well, and I mean, Ford obviously saying 30 grand for this truck, and that's without any incentives, obviously. So there's still going to be some deals out there, but I think at least for the next 6 to 12 months, while companies try and figure out how much they can discount and what they can do after credits are done, it's just going to be an adjustment period. But I think all car prices are going to go up pretty aggressively, here in the next 6 to 9 months. So it may end up being a wash, because everything's going to get more expensive, and that'll include many of those EVs. So, we'll see how it's going to all play out. But I think even gas stuff, it's going to be kind of crazy here once we really start to see car companies stop absorbing the tariffs, because they can't do it forever. And many have said, by the end of this year or very early next year, they will raise prices and truly show you what the tariff is costing, because it's, they're not going to absorb it forever. So, like I've been telling everyone all this year, get your car now, get something that'll last you for the next 4 years, and then hope that we have some better buying situations after that. But anyway, moving on here. So Nicholas, thanks for stopping by. Chad says, seeing some of the reviews and what people are saying about the Tremor Maverick, it'd be cool if they made a small Bronco with at least a partially removable top. That would be a cool idea. Yeah, to have a smaller baby Bronco. I mean, even Mercedes is, talking, or they've confirmed, a baby G-Wagon. So you would think a baby, a baby Bronco would be something that would make a lot of sense. And maybe that'll be one of the variants of this electric platform that they're talking about, is, we get the pickup truck first, and maybe we get some kind of Bronco thing, but it's not going to be as off-road capable if it's electric, without a lot of extra work that would probably make it more expensive. You need Rivian levels of, shielding underneath and all that kind of stuff. So probably a little bit harder to do. So, but it'd be fun, even just for the appearances, or just, like the removable top, like you said, if you don't even have the off-roadable characteristics. I mean, also Jeep's working on it. They got the Recon, which is kind of a Wrangler EV in a way, and that should be, kind of, I guess, filling that gap a little bit, but I think even that's going to be about Wrangler size. So even that's going to be a little bit on the big side. So I agree, something small would be cool. And Antonio says, I still remember that tree falling on your car. I'm an OG. I appreciate you sticking around all these years. And that was crazy for sure. Yeah. And Bobby said, I had a Fast and Furious crash in 1988 and an 87 Mustang GT Fox body that got totaled. Wow, that's crazy. Well, glad you made it out of that okay. And because back then, to total a car in the 80s and walk away from it okay there was a lot of luck involved there, not a whole lot of safety features. So glad you were made it out okay for that. And Danny says, speaking of which, my mom turned 50 in July. She has been in 3 car crashes. Final one was unfortunately when both my parents were T-boned while mom was 7 months pregnant with me. 06 Equinox versus an 01 Camry. That's crazy. Well, glad that everyone was okay, hopefully. And that's crazy stuff. Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff going on in cars and crashes, and that's something that's been on the rise the past few years. So that's why I know it's real lame for me to talk about in my reviews, and some people don't care, but I think safety is very important, and having a car that does well on crash tests and all that is something I think it's never a bad idea. But Vishal says, I'm 25, never been in a car crash, and no tickets or accidents in the 7 years of driving with my license. Well, that's awesome. Congrats. And you made it longer than I did, because I definitely, my first ticket, I think it was 21 or 22 in college. So you're a more responsible driver than I was, or maybe it's just luck. I don't know, but kudos to you, Michelle. And Danny says the Camry lost. The Equinox was hit on the side of my mom was sitting on. The Camry's front end was completely smashed in, and the lady driving the Camry ran a red light and slammed right into my parents at about 30. Crazy. The Equinox only had minor damage to the passenger side doors and the rocker panel damage. Well, I'm glad it wasn't too intense then. That's crazy. Yeah, one of the things when I was a kid, I was 10 years old, got T-boned in our 97 Subaru Impreza Outback Sport. It was actually on the opposite side of me, but my sister was sitting right there. And thankfully, again, that was also a low speed kind of T-boning situation where we were just kind of pulling through an intersection, and someone else thought they had the right of way and just kind of drove into us in a Chevy Venture minivan. But it hit us hard enough that we actually spun. I'd say it was about maybe a 90 degree. I don't think it was a full 180, but we did like a actual spin there, which was kind of crazy. And it was a hit and run too. So the guy flipped it in reverse, and because PA only has rear plates, we never saw his plate, and he just reversed all the way until he was out of sight and spun around. And I don't think they ever caught him. So it was pretty crazy. And let me see. Luke says, I don't understand all the judgment in the car community. Someone told me the other day to get a real truck, and I said, okay, pay for one then. And they told me I was a win for driving a Maverick. That sucks. I'm actually surprised that someone would say that to your face. I know people will say that online all the time, and people will be crappy, even while they're in their car. But it's like the second you're out of your car, I feel like that's when people get a lot less tough. But that's crazy. People are just, it's just the culture we're in these days, unfortunately. But like, I won't go on a rant about it, but I'm sorry that happened to you, Luke. That's, people are just crappy. And that might not even be the car community. That might just be truck people, which is kind of another beast of its own, in my opinion. And sorry, YH, I missed your other super chat there. He said, but real talk, I'm surprised at the panel misalignments for a $70,000 Canadian car, 2025, Mustang GT. How about some Toyota mentality for it? Yeah, panel gaps are definitely kind of hit or miss. I know the Bullet was pretty good. I know, like the hood, for example, though, on one side, the gap was bigger than it was on the other, and minor little things. Thankfully, I'm not OCD about that stuff, so it never really bothered me. And the same thing with the Lyric here. There is, a little bit of fit and finish, and that's a $65,000 car or a Lyric, but to me, thankfully, that stuff doesn't irk me. So I'm willing to just let it slide because it's usually not worth the hassle of going to the dealer and all the back and forth and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's, especially, $60,000 or $70,000 in Canada there. I mean, it's a lot of money to be dropping with how, again, I know everything's really expensive in Canada too. So even more, of a hurdle there to be paying that much and then have misalignments and stuff. Yeah. That is the one area that I think a lot of the American brands still don't fully understand the importance of, or they just can't master it. It's one or the other. Because I mean, it's not like European brands or Japanese brands or South Korean brands are perfect with that stuff, but they're much better in most cases that I've seen. At least, driven or reviewed over 800 cars at this point, and I can confidently say that the majority of the fit and finish and the squeaks and the chintzy materials and all that kind of stuff, majority of those I would say are from American brands. Even I was in this $100,000 Escalade a couple of months ago, and that had a rattle in the dashboard. Could you imagine spending $100,000 on an Escalade and then having a rattle? That's just ridiculous. And I mean, again, first world problems, and some people, I'm sure, just live with it. But like, there's some really expensive stuff I've been in from American companies, and it's like, this is a little bit unforgivable sometimes, but yeah, Mustangs have always kind of been a little iffy with that too. That it's a little more, excusable because of the performance aspect, I suppose, but especially the luxury stuff. I think that's the thing that, like, sometimes Cadillac and Lincoln and, those brands often miss is like, well, we have more features, we have more space, we do it at a cheaper price or whatever. And they can't fathom why anyone buys a BMW X7, but it's like, I was just in an X7 as well. Not a single squeak, not a single rattle. Everything was, super tight, rock solid. And, just those types of things, the buttons are nicer compared to an Escalade, for example. There's just some of those types of things where I think that, Cadillac and Lincoln have both improved on that a lot. I mean, I'm very impressed with the interior in our Lyriq, for example. Lincoln's doing some really, wow-worthy interiors now as well. Nautilus is very good, so and also you sometimes have luck of the draw, but absolutely, I think there's still some work to be done with the American manufacturers. I mean, and a lot of the stuff too. I mean, Ford gets beat up all the time, but it's true. They have the most recalls, I think, in the industry. How does that make you feel if you want a high quality product, to have the most recalls of anyone? I mean, obviously it shows they're fixing things and they're taking the initiative to address those things. But the fact that you need to fix anything at all in the first place, I think, is just still disappointing. And, hopefully they improve this stuff in the future. But it's not great. And something I think Americans have always kind of just, missed a little bit sometimes. And Chad, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, had an 85 Grand Prix a truck reversed into, had to help get him off my bumper, but no damage to that tank. That's crazy. Well, hope your 85 Grand Prix wasn't too banged up there, but hopefully it lived to see another day, because that's a cool car that hopefully is still on the road, because you don't see very many of those anymore. But yeah, thanks so much for the super chat there, Chad. And yeah, it's so funny how, I mean, not even just trucks, some of these other just like large SUVs now, where it's like, yeah, someone runs into them and they hardly even have a dent still. And let me see here. So B Mitchell says the Ford sounds more like an EV Ranger than an EV Maverick. Gotcha. I mean, I just assumed it would be Maverick size because of the price. If they're going to make an electric Ranger for $30,000 or so, that's going to be really wild. I mean, I guess, they're talking about the more efficient production line and stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm very curious, to see how the actual details, flesh out on that. The Con 1000 says, hi, Matt, thoughts on the Toyota 2026 CHR if it starts around 35 to 40 grand? I think it would be a really compelling offering. Yeah, I'm worried about CHR because, they revealed it. I was there at Toyota headquarters when they revealed it. I, filmed it. I've already sat in it. And I actually, while I was filming it, they had a few of the people standing around who, were in charge of the development and the decision making and all those types of things. And I mean, I told them point blank, and this is an example of when I am at these things, I do give some of these executives, some hard questions. And I was like, why is it all-wheel drive only? And why is it so fast? People understand what a CHR is. It's supposed to be cheap, and it was typically front-wheel drive. You can have all-wheel drive, but it doesn't need to be 325 horsepower. And I was like, people are going to be upset if this thing is not cheaper than BZ. And he's like, well, it's kind of like, a sportier thing. And I mean, they don't have pricing, I don't think, locked in yet for that. So they're still talking about it. And, who knows if my feedback made any difference. But, I was like, and the funny thing is Subaru is going to have a front-wheel drive version. So obviously a front-wheel drive version is also possible. And, just a backwards thing again, more of these confusing decisions from Subaru. Why is Subaru offering a front-wheel drive version of that? Not the Solterra, not anything else, but that. And that's the one thing that Toyota should have a front-wheel drive version of. It makes my head spin. But anyway, I'm pretty confident CHR is going to be BZ priced. They may even try and take it in a premium direction and say, well, it's a sportier thing because it's got the sport back shape, and so we can charge a $3,000 premium or something like you see on a GLC coupe versus a regular GLC. I don't know. I mean, it's a little smaller, so I would hope that it's going to be priced under it. 35 to 40. I mean, you're probably not super far off, but I'm worried that it may be on the high end of that. Even if it starts at 35, though, again, people who want something cheaper from Toyota, that's not going to really fit that. They still need to do something slower, something that's, just Equinox EV essentially. I think Chevy was brilliant with just slapping a huge battery in the thing, so you got over 300 miles of range, but you have the front wheel drive option there, and it's priced well. And I think that I don't think CHR is going to put a dent in Equinox EV's momentum because it's just going to be too expensive is my worry. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll come out and start at 30 grand and I'll, be doing cartwheels, but I'm just a little nervous about that. But I mean, it will be fast. And so for someone who doesn't care what CHR used to be and just wants a sporty, cool, BZ essentially, and you want something just a little bit sharper styling, I think for that buyer, absolutely, it could be a compelling offering, and I'm excited for it either way. I'm just happy to see Toyota, expand their EV lineup. But I just think if they were going to do that, it's fun bringing back names, but I don't think CHR was the right pick for a name. I think there's, other names or just come up with something new. It kind of got screwed up because whenever they dropped the BZ4X and made it BZ, then they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, the original thinking and what you see in other BZs in other parts of the world that are already on sale, I think China has a BZ3, that's a sedan. This could have been the BZ2, and then you have BZ2X, you have BZ4X. It all would have been very logical. I know it's still kind of a fax machine like naming scheme. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but at least it could have had some kind of hierarchy. Now, what hierarchy can you have with BZ? The only other option is to do stuff like CHR or just pull out other old names, which is great, but don't pick a name that people have in their mind as being synonymous with cheap, as far as just affordability goes. And so I think that's the only thing I'm a little iffy about. But like most things, I'm sure they'll get blowback. And honestly, CHR is better than reviving RSX like Acura has done. So, it's I guess not something to complain about too much, but I hope they keep the price lower. And Danny said another thing with the accident. I said the Equinox did not have side airbags. They were optional in 2006, but ours did not have them. Wow. Well, I'm glad that, again, it wasn't a higher speed impact, or that the physics were just right there, that everyone was still okay. That's good to hear. And Michelle says, buying the first model year of a new car generally isn't a good idea, regardless you have the car. I like that my Jetta is a 2024 final year of the Mark 7.5 before the 2025 facelift. Yeah, it usually is the common knowledge and just wisdom there that is, it's always better to kind of let the first year pass you by if you don't need to have the newest thing out there. And Justin says, what's the new channel, or has it not launched yet? Haven't launched it publicly yet. It is a channel out there, but it's not connected to anything, so you won't be able to find it. And I'm keeping it under wraps. I'm pretty sure I'm happy with it, but I'm still just gonna let it sit for a few days and make sure I'm happy with the channel name, because I've really been heavily debating. That's been one of the holdups, is trying to come up with the right branding for it, and trying to debate, exactly how I package it. How much of the Matt Moran stuff I bring in, how much of it's just a reset, since it is going to be somewhat of a different audience, I think, from the car reviews and stuff. And so trying to really brainstorm a lot. Actually, ChatGPT has been very helpful. I'm again usually bashing AI, and I don't see a whole lot of use for it. But when it comes to ideation and brainstorming, man, it's very helpful. And so actually ChatGPT helped me a lot. And actually the new logo I just made with Gemini, which is also, again, a shame for graphic designers and artists, but I literally give it a prompt and do a few revisions, and it's like, bing, here's my new logo, which is great for someone like myself who isn't artistic and also cheap and doesn't want to spend a bunch of money for a cool logo and stuff. It's been, a little bit easier, but I've been really kind of going back and forth on names and stuff, but I've landed on a name and I'm pretty sure I'm going forward with. And so, but yeah, I will probably, the way I'm going to probably do it is I'm not going to launch the channel until there's at least one video, or a video coming very soon. So probably what you'll see is I'll probably do a community post a day or two before the video goes live. Just, once I know the video has been recorded and that I'm actually really doing this thing, then I'll do a community post, tell you guys about the new channel, let you know so you can go subscribe in advance. So when a video comes out, you're notified about it or whatever. And then a day or two later, probably post it up. And then I'll obviously be, promoting it on here again if you happen to miss, the community post or whatever. But that's probably the way I'm going to play it. Just because also from a momentum standpoint, I want to try and have everything hit around the same time for the algorithm standpoint, to be like, oh, wow, new channel. Wow, a bunch of new subscribers. And here's a new video. And it hopefully just, kind of helps to push everything, with a nice, strong start. So that's kind of the idea there. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Right towards the end of this month is what I'm planning on debuting that. And again, it won't be a ton of content, probably one long form every 2 weeks or so, and then a bunch of shorts that are clips of that long form to kind of bridge the gap, and you just kind of get the exposure out there. But that's going to be the plan here. Let me see. So Vishal says, I really see G80s in my area. I see more E-classes, 5 Series, A6. Nice. Yeah, I think just about everywhere. I don't know how many G80s are out there, but there's not a lot of them, that's for sure. It's been even around here where we have a Genesis dealer local, and people around here, have some money. I don't see G80s hardly ever, and I see plenty of 5 Series, E-Class, A6s, all that stuff. And TFI says Pepsi Max / Zero Sugar is better than Coke Zero. Interesting. I don't think I've actually tried Pepsi Max in a while. So I see Lancelot says Diet Mountain Dew for the win. I don't drink that either. I don't really drink any diet stuff, honestly. But Diet Mountain Dew is definitely, just because of the Lana Del Rey song, is always cool in my mind. And Michelle says, anyone here drink 7-Up? Currently drinking that. I love 7-Up. 7-Up is actually, this is probably an unpopular opinion. I like 7-Up better than Sprite, and I like it better than Starry. 7-Up is hands down the best clear soda in my opinion. So I'm right there with you, Vishal, on the 7-Up love. I really love 7-Up, especially in the wintertime. I don't know why, but just it kind of hits differently in the wintertime. And I also have, any of you who are also 90s kids like myself, I have all the vivid memories of the fun Christmas 7-Up commercials with the little like hockey puck guys that are like using chainsaws and like carving ice to make 7-Up bottles and stuff for Santa. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. But that always, marketing works. And at least for me as an impressionable little kid, I was like, oh, 7-Up. And ever since, 7-Up's been my favorite. But let me see. YH says, how much is a Whopper in PA on Wednesdays? I don't know. I don't do Whopper Wednesdays. I love Whoppers, but unfortunately, Beth does not. So usually, if we're doing fast food, yeah, Burger King's always like the last ditch resort. Although whenever I'm on the road by myself, traveling for reviews or things like that, if I'm on the PA Turnpike, there's a bunch of Burger Kings, and I will definitely always stop for an Impossible Whopper because I love the way they do the Impossible ones. I usually try and pick Impossible when I can, and that's they do a really good job with those. So that's man, the Impossible Whopper is. That's hands down my favorite fast food burger whenever I can get my hands on it. And Lance Swath drinks 7-Up at night. And why it says 7-Up disappeared, I only see Sprite and even Sierra Mist. If you still see Sierra Mist, then I don't know what you're in some other timeline. I think Sierra Mist, unless I'm wrong, I thought that they discontinued that. Maybe you're just joking, or maybe Canada's different with your market. Maybe that'd be interesting if Canada still has Sierra Mist, because over here in the States, it's now Starry, and they changed the flavoring and all that as well. Interesting. Let us know, Etch, if Sierra Mist is still in Canada. That's very fascinating. And Vishal says, I watched the Fiat POV. The turn signals seem pretty loud. Are they loud in person, or is it the mic making them sound louder? They are pretty loud. I think also any interior noise in the Fiat is kind of amplified because it's so small that it's very concentrated and doesn't have room to disperse really. But yeah, they are louder. Like, I mean, some cars it's just quieter, like our Mach-E, I could barely tell when the turn signals are on. And a Cadillac's kind of a nice happy medium. And the Bullet was actually fairly quiet as well. But yeah, definitely some of the loudest turn signals I've ever had in the Fiat, I think. So your perception was correct. And YH says, good less EVs equals happier customers. I guess it depends on where you are, but I mean, there's millions of happy EV drivers who don't want to go back and are happy with them. And for those people, it's unfortunate because they may have less choice. And that was supposedly the whole point of rolling back these regulations here, is give people the choice. And now it's really not so much that because they are, again, taxing the EVs heavier here in PA, especially, like I mentioned a few streams ago. I now have to pay an extra $200 road user fee for driving my Fiat under 5,000 miles a year, and paying the equivalent of the gas tax for a 30 mile per gallon vehicle driven 15,000 miles a year. That's the amount of road tax that I have to pay for my little Fiat that gets 139 mpge currently. Definitely not fair. So anyway, yeah, I think it's unfortunate in my opinion. I'm absolutely open to choice, but I just think that I'm pretty unhappy with the way the whole EV demonization has happened around here recently. And Zeno says, excited for the V8 exclusive Durangos. I think it's kind of a mistake. I mean, again, affordability. I don't know. There's so many companies getting rid of base models and stuff. Why is Durango V8 only? The only thing I have to think is that it's the end of that life cycle for Durango. It seems like the UAW documents have shown that new Durango, I think, is coming a year after the new Jeep Wrangler. I think that, or the new Jeep Grand Cherokee, I mean. So I think that puts it around 2027, or maybe even 2026. I mean, like, Durango is definitely towards the end of its life cycle, and, probably doesn't have much longer to live. So I'm guessing that, they're just trying to prioritize profits on Durango, and there's probably more profit to be had on the V8 than on the V6. That's got to be my guess as far as why they went for V8, because otherwise it makes zero sense to me. Obviously, I know for enthusiasts, rah, V8, everything. But the reason why Challenger and Charger were successful commercially was because of the V6s. They sold an overwhelming majority of Chargers and Challengers with V6s. And I think this is also part of the problem currently with regular Charger and, Charger EV, and even the 6-pack gas version that just came out. They need to do a Pentastar V6 version, because a lot of people want that cool look, but they don't care if it's slow as everything. They just want the cool look. And same thing with Durango, especially Durango. It's a family crossover. People do not need a V8 in that. And so people would like to have the cool styling in Durango, and they like what Dodge is doing, and they like the fact that it's reliable, it's been around forever, but they don't need the V8. And also worse fuel economy. I know gas is decently cheap right now, but there's no guarantee that'll be that way forever. And so it just, again, choice. Give people choices. Why is it only V8 and driving up the price as a result? Again, we need to make things more affordable, not less. And also forcing people into a V8 and having them pay more for gas also doesn't help that affordability either. So it's just, one thing on top of the other there. And Luke says, if my vehicle were to get an over-the-air update, would I know about it via forward pass or inside my infotainment, etc.? Yes, it should tell you both in the infotainment and also in your app. In the Mach-E, at least, it did both for us. In most vehicles, we'll always let you know, I think, that has taken place. And let me see. So Fuchs says, I want a baby Ridgeline or Tacoma. That's another cool idea. I think, there was that concept that Toyota did, and I can't remember what it was called. It came out like maybe 2 years ago or so. And there was talks that, there'll be an electric smaller truck from Toyota. Now, whether that still happens, again, with everything being so hostile to EVs here going forward for the next few years, they may put it on the back burner. They may try and make it multi-powertrain and, throw some kind of gas engine in there or make it plug-in hybrid or something. I don't know. But I think Toyota is kind of working on something like that. Now, as far as Honda, definitely do not hold your breath for Honda. They won't even add all-wheel drive to the Accord. So doing something logical like a baby Ridgeline, never going to happen. It would be nice though. I totally agree with you. And Lou says cars are getting more expensive. It's why I'm keeping my 2022 Tacoma for a while. I don't blame you, especially interest rates still aren't great if you don't have a highly incentivized rate, So yeah, definitely. If you got a car that'll last you for the next 4 years, stick with it. If you're happy with it, and don't bother with the car market. And Fuchs says also, how long did it take your eyes to recover from the motorcyclist? It's a good question. Yeah, so wow, you really have a really good memory. So the side view mirror, for anyone who obviously doesn't remember, so I was sideswiped by a motorcycle, was going about 50 miles an hour in my Mustang GT with the window down. I was doing about 35. So he sideswiped me, and as he sideswiped me, he took out the fender, took out the door skin, and bounced off at that point, and then slid the rest of the way. I basically just kind of caught his poorly executed turn. Essentially, he would have, if I wasn't there, he would have probably slid off into the woods. So he was lucky that I was there to catch him, so he didn't get maimed by trees. But so anyway, but yeah, as he was sideswiping me, the side mirror actually got knocked and smacked me in the face, gave me a nice bump on my head, and shards of mirror glass in my eye, and actually did I had corneal abrasions, so just little, small cuts, micro cuts, and it just hurt to blink for, I think it was really like a couple of days. They cleaned it out at the hospital, and I did go to an optometrist after a little while to kind of check on it and make sure everything was good. But I think it's fully recovered. And it's also maybe just be a little bit of age, but I have noticed my nighttime vision isn't as good as it used to be. Still is plenty good, but I can't see road signs as well as I used to from far away. That's probably just because I'm 35 too. I don't know. But I hope not from that, but I do notice that that I sometimes can be a little less sharp than my right one. So who knows, maybe it did some kind of minor permanent damage. I don't know, but thankfully I still have very good vision and not going to complain. But yeah, it was really only like a few days I really recall. It's so long ago now that I don't barely even remember too much of the pain and stuff. But I'm just thankful. It bounced and hit me in the face, and then actually managed to also hit Beth in the side of the head too. But thankfully, it was at that point had been slowed down by my head that it didn't hit her too hard. But She, I think, had a tiny little bump there too. But yeah, that was crazy for sure. I just wish they would have tested the guy for alcohol at the scene, because there's, based on what we had later learned about the guy, there's a decent chance that he might have been intoxicated as well. So hopefully he has become a more responsible person since. We will see. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, that's impressive that you remember that, Fuka. Thank you for supporting the channel all these years. And TFI says, I got rear-ended once in the Golf, sideswiped in the Golf, bumped my friend's Corolla in the Saab, got rear-ended in the Volvo S70, and got my first verbal warning for speeding in the Saab. Nice. Well, at least you've got some, pretty safe cars there. And yeah, it sounds like at least hopefully none of those were too intense. So that's good. And TFI also says, to be fair, I thought the officer wanted to race, but she wasn't amused. Nice. And Chad, thanks for stopping by, Chadwick, there, and saying hello. And JTC3 says, longtime viewer of yours, Matt. Hope all is well with you. Love your content. I really appreciate that. Thanks for stopping by and saying hi. And SMK is asking, what is subscribers only mode? That's just the mode that I've enabled here, just to keep out spammers and haters and stuff like that. Because especially had to do that, I don't know, about 6 or so months ago, maybe at this point, because I had one troll that just was constantly just hammering and ruining the comment section. So subscribers only mode seems to have kept them out for the most part. So that's why I have to do that. But I assume if you want to interact with me on here, you're probably a subscriber anyway. So I think that's kind of a nice happy medium here. So I see we have hit the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to just prioritize here the super chats and the member questions here for the last little bit to wrap us up here. And then anyone else, if I didn't get to your question or comment there, definitely be sure to stop by on Sunday for the next live, or always feel free to send me a message or social media, whatever. And more than happy to always chat there too. But so I see that Chad has the final super chat here of the night. He says, loud turn signal reminds me of backseat of a cop car. Interesting. Yeah, never been in the backseat of a cop car, thankfully, I can say. So I've never experienced, I guess I've been in the back of a Crown Vic, though, before. Because a friend of mine, his grandpa had a regular Crown Vic. I don't recall the turn signals being super loud in those, but maybe someone else that has a Crown Vic can contribute there, if that's actually a thing. But anyway, thank you so much for the super chat there, Chad. And let me see, last few member questions here. Let me see, where were we here? See, TFI is responding to Chadwick, who's asking about, he's got a question, 26 a Elantra N or 25 GTI refinement versus budget fun. My vote would be a Elantra N. I see TFI agrees with on the used Veloster N and add more sound deadening the doors and trunk. That's a fun option too. Yeah, but Elantra N, any of the N models are fantastic. Let me see here. Chad says, with tariffs and EVs on the rise, I'm assuming we will see a lot more shared platforms, even between competitors, almost like a slate mentality for the different brands, which would be cool. Yeah, there could be a lot more. They're saying how, this really is going to be a real crunch for car companies the next few years with the tariffs and everything. And as a result, we may see, again, some models drop out, some brands drop out, some companies come together because they just need to survive. That's entirely possible for sure. And Vishal says, Matt losing his mind over Subaru really shows how much they've lost the plot. Yeah, well, I really think I'm not their target audience anymore. They want people who just want, average transportation back and forth, and not much else, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. And, for that, they've hit the nail on the head again. Their sales are doing super well. And, their customers that they have found now, are very happy, it seems, for the most part. So, yeah, but it is a shame that they kind of lost their cool niche kind of thing that they had going for themselves. And Luke says, my hack is buying cars during mid-cycle refreshes. That's a great choice as well. Yeah. And getting, some of that newer stuff, but also getting all the improvements of the past few years. That's a great way to do it too. Chad says, I know a lady who had a new Thunderbird a few years back. A car ran a red light and T-boned her on her door. The other car was smashed and she was able to open her door and walk away. Wow, that's great. Yeah, a lot of times it really, comes down to physics. I mean, entirely comes down to physics, but, some of these stories where you see cars that maybe weren't the safest that, ended up doing really well. Sometimes you get lucky with the physics. Other times, who knows what helps in those situations, but also it really comes down to what's the car that's hitting you and things like that too that really make a big difference. And that's one thing the IHS has been kind of focusing on with their new side impact crash test is they actually upped the weight of it to reflect the higher weight of vehicles these days. So a good side impact crash test rating from 5 or more years ago probably in actual modern vehicle crashes wouldn't do super well. But so that's one thing that it's good to see companies keeping up with, and that's why companies like the IHS continuing to make their tests harder and harder is important. So we keep this ball moving forward with safety. And let me see. Luke says I use ChatGPT for test siding colors for my house for testing siding colors for your house. Nice, that's cool. Yeah, there's so many cool uses for it, really. Again, I just hope it doesn't royally screw us over in the long run. We'll see what happens. But the little handy things that it does do these days are very nice for sure. And I see Fuka's, Team 7 up there and V Mitchell as well. I see also B. Mitchell said 7-Up was going to give away a bunch of 1990 Mustang convertibles in dark green metallic white interior, but caved at the last moment, so Ford dumped them on the market. Today, Fox Body fans covet them. Interesting. I never knew that factoid. That's fun. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I see Chadwick's saying my fiance is vegan. I eat them with her. Actually, super good. The Impossible Whopper. Yeah, I'm glad you like them too. Yeah, again, they just do a better job than you would expect. I think that's awesome. And Jazz says I would think you should be charged by mileage on the Fiat for the road use tax. You could fill out an affidavit or a form like car insurance sometimes requires about the mileage. Well, in PA to register a car, you have to put your mileage in every year, and not only just to register, but also I just had to pay this road tax thing for the Fiat, and they actually ask for your mileage. So they're collecting mileage and then ignoring that in their amounts. And it's either lazy or greedy, probably both. But it's one thing I'm very unhappy with. PA has been okay, but not to get into politics, but they've unfortunately gone in directions that I haven't loved in some cases here, and that's one of them with the road tax thing, which was apparently like universally praised and passed unanimously, which is also kind of strange that it seems like even the Democrats in PA don't understand how that isn't a good way to do road tax. But anyway, Jazz says to write to the governor and the EV Trade Association. Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter, unfortunately. I wish it did. But it's just one of these things. It's a lost cause, in my opinion, at least for me. I mean, I just have too many other things going on to be bothered with it. It's just easier to pay the $200, and I guess that's why they do it, because they know they got people and all that. But they are going to keep increasing the road use tax, and if it is something that continues to get more and more expensive, then I may eventually make more of a fuss. But honestly, making use of this platform would probably be a better and a more effective way of doing that than a letter. But yeah, I'm sure surely there was one intelligent person that understands, EVs and how to tax them equitably, who must have spoken up at some point during the whole legislation procedure, and they didn't listen to them. So I don't know, but it is what it is. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the other chaos going on these days. So it's just one of those things where, it's not even worth dwelling on with the bigger fish we need to fry here. And anyway, Cam says, aloha, joining from Lexington, Kentucky. Hope you're doing okay. I heard there was some crazy weather, I think, in Kentucky and Tennessee and all that. So hope you're doing okay. He says, on the drive to move my sister out to college. That's awesome. Well, hope she has a great time at college there. And thanks for stopping by, Cam. And Fuchs says, car enthusiasts could also be environmental enthusiasts. Imagine a train enthusiast forcing everyone to take trains instead of planes, or anime lovers forcing people to wear costumes to work. I love that. Absolutely. It's There's a lot of people, especially in the car community, that love to gatekeep, that love to say, well, you're not a real enthusiast if you don't drive a manual. You're not a real enthusiast if you don't have a V8, if you don't have a real truck, if you don't have a gas car. Take your pick of all this stupid crap that people try and use, to demean others. And absolutely, I mean, think about train enthusiasts who would say, oh, well, if it's not a steam locomotive, then it's not a real train. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And, there's awesome EVs. I mean, there's so many. Ioniq 5N is a prime example. I mean, watch that video. I had so much fun in that thing. As my car of the year last year. And it's not just because I'm excited for EVs. Like if there was something better, I absolutely would have said something better is better. But it's just that was the funnest thing that I drove and the most innovative, exciting thing of like, hey, someone's not just phoning it in with 10 more horsepower from a freer flowing exhaust and a new ECU tune and tweaked headlights and taillights. Yawn. Like, that's great. Like Golf R is that, but that's a big old yawn to me. It's a nice improvement, but that doesn't get me excited. Like Ioniq 5N doing all these crazy tricks, all these crazy, gimmicks and stuff to me is far more exciting than woohoo, you got 13 more horsepower this year. Hooray. Like just to me, it doesn't that, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm, jaded and burned out with, YouTube and stuff these days, but just like to me, yeah, like the EVs were actually exciting and it's people just want to pour cold water on it and it just sucks, but it is what it is. And see, Vince says, locomotive purist, you owe me a 10-minute train. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that has that opinion. And Michelle, thanks so much for being a member for 16 months now. He says, North Carolina has vehicle property taxes we pay every year at the same time as the registration renewal fee for EVs. There is an EV fee added to that. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, at least PA, it could always be worse because we don't have vehicle property tax, which I also think is BS. You have to keep paying taxes on a vehicle you already paid taxes for when you bought it. It just, yeah, that's insane to me. I feel so sorry for all. I've heard that from other friends and stuff that have been, just it sucks because it's hard to have a car collection when you got to pay these taxes every year. It's not enough to just buy it. You got to keep continuing to being able to afford that. There's never an end to keeping that car financially. It just, yeah, it just sucks. But yeah, sorry you have to deal with that, Michelle. And let me see here. Last few member questions. So Jazz says, I guess with your cars both being leases, you're not going to install dash cams. Is that right? Yeah, not going to install dash cams. And also one thing, and this is an actual thing that I'm a little bit nervous about with EVs, is a lot of them still don't do a super great job of regulating the 12-volt battery. And this is why we've seen bricked EVs. And it's just because the regular little 12-volt battery that every car uses is just really maxed out with an EV because it has to run so much stuff and it has to run in the background. It has to do these welcome animations for the lights. It has to do all these other things that really, tax a battery a lot more than just having an alternator and a radio running or something, So that's one thing actually that has gotten a few people into trouble with EVs is running dash cams. Now it seems like with newer EVs and software updates and stuff, it seems like that is mostly a thing of the past. But every once in a while, I will still see someone who says, my EV is having weird battery drain. What's going on? And it's oftentimes, the dash cam that sometimes has a phantom drain or is, messing with the 12 volt. And that also can apply to gas cars as well. So that's the only thing that I'm just a little iffy about. The Fiat gets driven so rarely too that, yeah, having a dash cam and that's kind of a waste. It wouldn't be a bad idea for the Lyriq. I don't actually think there's a regular power outlet in the Lyriq. I haven't checked, but I don't know if it has. I guess I could find one that's powered by USB-C. But yeah, I mean, it'd be probably, it's always a good idea. I do recommend dash cams. I think they're a great idea. I just need to look into whether or not anyone's had an issue with that in the Lyriq or not. But yeah, it's not something I really obviously have thought about a whole lot. But yeah, but being a lease, that doesn't mean you're immune to, insurance fraud of people trying to crash into you and claiming it's your fault and stuff like that, So I think dash cams are always a great idea for sure. But that is something, again, some EVs do struggle with that. And Cam says, my mom got my sister's 2016 RDX up to 95 miles per hour on the way out here. Man, must have been some big hurry there, or some crazy person tailgating or something. That's nuts. Well, hope everyone stays safe out there. And yeah, but I hope it's a smooth move in. And B. Mitchell says, geez, 35 years old, time to start shopping for nursing homes. No, it's just, it's one of those things. As you age, you have little things. I know as people who are older probably laugh at that, but I do feel, more aches and pains and all those dumb little things that start to happen, metabolism slowing down, all that. And Michelle says, I guess Honda also makes the list of brands Matt gets worked up over. Totally fair, though. There's several easy things they refuse to do for some reason. Yeah. Yep. I've had many a Honda rant here, and I'll spare you guys another one of those here tonight. But let me see. And Chad, yeah, definitely always happy to chime in there. If you have any follow-up questions, Chadwick, about the Elantra N, or what would be the best fit for you, definitely feel free to send me a message. I also do those car consultings that I just rolled out a couple of weeks ago here, and you can go to mattmaranmotoring.com and book there if you want to have a one-on-one chat too. But I think Elantra N is a great pick if you're pretty happy with that choice. No need to agonize yourself with any other thoughts or options or anything like that. And Chad says, awesome chat and amazing job, Sean W., for a great deal on helping support a channel and chat that we love. Absolutely. Sean is the absolute MVP here tonight and takes the record for the highest super chat I've ever received here. If he's still here, thank you again so much. Enjoy the optic. Say hi if you ever see a green Lyric or a red Fiat 500 out and about. I'd love to say thanks in person. And but yeah, so anyway, sorry to anyone else that wasn't able to reach your comments here tonight. Again, definitely feel free to send me a message or join in on Sundays, where we do have a full 2 hours, a lot more time, and I've done a pretty good job on those of keeping up with the non-member questions as well. So I hope to see all of you on Sunday as well who can make it. But anyway, thank you all so much for a great stream here tonight, and have a good rest of your week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.